Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this. It's the very last day of July 2024, the 31st, Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. We're right on the edge, of a war breaking out in the Middle East, a wider war, what they call a regional war. Right on the edge of it right now. Not a good thing to be there, but we've been there for a little while now. Do you remember back a few months ago we had that strike of I think 300 drones of Iran attack Israel? That was close. We came close. Now we're very close again to a wider war breaking out in the region. Now what about in Ukraine? Let's not forget about that war in Ukraine. Well, there's Ukrainian intelligence operation that has prompted a Pentagon urgent warning. And this was really something urgent right here, I think. Evidently, what happened was the... well, let's look down here a little bit further. At the beginning of this month, a call was made to the Pentagon by Russia. And on the other side, the caller was the defense ministry, from the defense minister of Russia, Andrei Belousov. And he urgently needed to talk to the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. It was urgent. About an alleged Ukrainian operation. So he called up Lloyd Austin, and then they talked it over, I guess, what this Ukrainian operation is. Now, we don't know what it was, but it must have been something pretty darn bad that they were planning on doing to Russia. That possibly could have triggered... Well, what it possibly could have triggered is listed down here. It says this operation in Russian territory could... cause what was called by the Russians an uncontrolled escalation due to the actions in Kiev and Washington. It says a very serious warning about the possibility of uncontrolled escalation between, I guess, Russia, an uncontrolled escalation. Now, it says Russia and the Russian side sent a very serious warning about these probable possibility of new provocations from Kiev that could further a dangerous escalation which could prove to be completely uncontrollable. So whatever it was they were planning on doing, Kiev was planning on doing to Russia, it could have triggered a completely uncontrolled escalation. What was described in quotations as an uncontrolled escalation. Could we be talking about a nuclear escalation? I just don't know. I don't know, because I don't know what they were going to do. All I'm just reading here is what they said that could happen. Avoid a dangerous escalation that could prove to be completely uncontrollable. In these words right here. That's what could have happened. But they told Kiev, they said, don't do it. It says, if you're thinking about doing this is what they contacted the Ukrainians, the Americans did. And they said, if you're thinking about doing something like this, they told the Ukrainians, they said, don't do it. Don't. So evidently they cut them off at the pass, and they kept them from doing whatever it was that was going to cause... I don't know what it was they were going to do, or what the uncontrolled escalation would have been, or how severe it could have been. We just don't know what's going on behind the scenes, guys. We could be so close to nuclear war, it might not even be funny. We could be behind the scenes. And you guys, you wouldn't know unless it happened. And then you wouldn't know. I mean, then it would just be... what could I say, Now, moving on to this war over there in in the other war, the war in the Middle East, they have found the body of the slain Hezbollah commander. Fad Shakur has been found. According to the Times of Israel, it says the body of Hezbollah military leader Fad Shakur has been recovered from the rubble of a Beirut building hit by an Israeli strike last night, and his family has been informed, it says here. Now, this is the Times of Israel. Has anybody verified this? I don't know, but I think it's probably. But I'm not absolutely sure about this article. I've only got it from the Times of Israel here about this Hezbollah commander bodies being found. But this is what they're talking about here. The Ayatollah says severe revenge coming for the Israel killing of Hamas leader on Iranian soil. They're right on the edge right now, and it just seems like Iran, because a lot of these other countries are proxies. Iran is the main part that's like the part that is like at the center of Iran and Israel are at the center of all this. Israel's at the center and Iran's at the center. But these are the two countries, even though a lot of these proxy countries are doing fighting, like Hezbollah in the north, Hamas and the Houthis and all that. Don't get confused. This is really boils down to the two big players in all this, which is Iran and Israel. And it looks like we're on the edge of all-out war breaking out in the Middle East. We're right at the edge. Will it happen? I don't know, but it's a powder keg. It seems like matches have been falling into this powder keg, and they fizzle out each time, and several times now they fizzled out. And so, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with this, but we're right on the edge. We really are. Now, Donald Trump, in his bid for re-election, which is coming up in just less than 100 days now, guys. Less than 100 days till this election, and now it looks like it's Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. And it says Donald Trump says he will probably debate Kamala Harris. But, well, it says here, if I read down on this article, and he's hasn't really committed himself, I don't think, but the fix I'm getting on it here is probably going to happen. Seeing if I can find the spot here where it says that gave me the idea it's probably going to happen. They're probably going to debate. A debate between, that should be very interesting, a debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. It looks like his bandage on his ear is getting much smaller, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to require reconstructive surgery, I think, because it took a big chunk out of his ear, the top of his ear, that bullet. So he's probably going to have to go through reconstructive surgery to have a normal looking ear, I would imagine. But it looks like it's getting a lot better, a lot smaller bandage on there now than he had on there before. Now, moving on here, the Bank of Japan. Now, I'm going to show you guys later the Bank of Japan's treasury rates. They're a little bit lower. And, the higher the rates go, the more investors start to eye them and say, hey, maybe I want to invest in that. The United States has been offering awfully high rates of return on their yield curve. All these other countries, I mean, even if you were to go and say you want an Italian bond, you can get an American bond and it'll give you a better yield. And that's the way, all these bonds, I think probably the best yields out there on treasuries has been, but Japanese might, I just don't know, they might start to give the United States a run for their money. And they don't like it. They're saying they're changing the rules. They're saying the Bank of Japan. They're changing the rules here. What are they doing? They're raising rates. The Bank of Japan. And it says here they're going to do it, I guess, into the near future to try to protect the yen. They're saying here it's extremely disappointing. This is their words. It's extremely disappointing that the Bank of Japan has chosen to act by ignoring weak economic data and now looks like it's moved to counter the weak yen, said UBS economist Masamichi Adichie. So it looks like they're going to continue to raise. And the thing is this is coming at the start of a cycle where the Fed's getting ready to start lowering. So you got one country raising rates and the other country lowering rates. Let's take a look at those Japanese bonds. So take a look here. We're seeing that the I'm so used to saying U.S. The Japanese 10-year is just over 1% right here. And the 30 years at 2.17 on the Japanese. Now, if we go to the United States, let's take a look at their rates. We're seeing that the U.S. 10 years at 4.1, and the U.S. 30 years not much higher at 4.34. So the Japanese got quite a ways to go before they give you a higher yield than the United States, at 4%. But the United States is going to start dropping. They're going to drop 25 basis points to a time probably, but those drops, once they start coming, are probably going to be rapid fire. And they have to. They're forced into it because their economy is going to go down into terrible weakness if they don't start lowering these rates. Now, Japan's on the other end. They're going to be hiking the rates higher than their central bank. And so, the thing is, you can have a starting position of 4%, say, on the U.S. 10-year, 1% on the Japanese, and the United States starts coming down, and Japan starts going up. They'll cross paths at certain points, what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. And I think that's why they don't like it, Japan going into a hiking cycle, because it's competition for treasuries. They gotta continue to have a high rates. Gives the treasuries at least a little bit of people saying, hey, you know what? I can make a 4% yield or a 5% yield. Say they go out into a 2-month here at 5.3. Say, it gives them a little bit of incentive. The higher the yields, the more money they're going to make in interest. And Japan. They don't want people taking their thunder away. They've had the thunder here on these. These have been the best yielding bonds, for a major economy. And, they don't want people stealing their thunder, especially Japan stealing their thunder. That's what's going through my mind about all this. And you guys tell me if I'm off on that, if I'm barking up the wrong tree or what. But I think I'm right about that they're changing the rules. What rules? Who made these rules? All's fair in love and war, and all's fair in love and money, and it's money in the financial system. It's all crooked anyway. What rules? Rules that you have to obey the crooked rules, or what are the rules? I just don't know. What rules are they talking about? Now, the silver price today. If I can get this ad to leave here. I'm clicking on the X. There we go. $28.77 for silver. It's up 42 cents. So see it creeping back up to that $29 or $20 or $30 range. It's creeping back up to that after that serious smackdown. Here we go. But I'm amazed it hasn't really taken off over all these years, and it still hasn't taken off. It's still, this is not up. Sitting there watching $22 silver. Now I'm looking at $28.77 silver. That's still not up. It's got a 2 next to it. I won't consider it up until it's got a 5 instead of a 2. 50 some odd dollars at least. At the very least. And still I'll be sitting here saying, it's still cheap. Probably got to get triple-digit silver before I'm going to be impressed, and start to say, hey, yeah, we've had something here happen. Anyway, cryptocurrency today, we're looking at Bitcoin at 66,465 or 565. I think it was 67 yesterday, wasn't it? So it's hovering right around that mark right now. Ethereum is at 3308 and XRP is at 65.2 cents. So, stocks today. We're taking a look at our S&P 500 right now, and it's up 87 points, which is quite a lot for the S&P 500 at 5,523. And our Dow Jones is up 259 points at 41,002. 41,002. Crude oil is up $2.83 at 77.56. So everything's up a little bit today. Taking a look at our U.S. Treasuries. The Treasuries have fallen. The U.S. 10-year's fallen 4 basis points, and it stands at 4.1. And the U.S. 30-year has fell 5.3 basis points, and it's at 4.34. So, they say that the United States dollar is the best horse at the glue factory. In other words, the best of all these currencies out there. But what happens if the Japanese yen, if they start to raise the rates up and they get them up pretty higher than the yields on the U.S. Treasuries? What happens then? I'm just wondering. I'm not even going to talk about that right now because we got a long way to go. The Japanese yen 10 years at 1% and the U.S. 10 years at 4.09. So it's got over 3 full points to go. 300 basis points, to go. And so, no sense talking about that. It's got a long way to go yet before they would cross paths. But it could happen pretty fast if the Fed gets into a cutting cycle and the Japanese keep raising them up. Because it's a multiplier. Japanese say bring theirs up 25 basis points, and the United States lowers theirs 25 basis points. That's 50 basis points between the two of them. It could make up this distance pretty quick. It'd probably never happen, though. Maybe it will. Who knows? We're going to keep our eye on it, though. Now, the U.S. dollar index is at 104.21. And we're seeing the dollar fall a little bit today. Not much, so 0.28. Now, it looks like it's going up right now, though. But it was higher earlier, so it's still falling. But thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.